We're back. T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Darkside, and I brought a weirdo with me today. I mean, one of the crew. Been on a few filming, I think, this year already. We hadn't really come out with any yet. You're going to start to see them in a week or two. But I got Aaron Croft from Total Plumbing. What's going on, Aaron?
Not much, man. Just glad to be here. And
Having a good time?
oh yeah, so far so good.
You know, give us some history about yourself, Aaron. You're into fishing, of course, right? Everybody loves to fish. Tell us where you're from and where you started fishing and some of your fondest memories growing up.
Well, I'm born and raised in Tampa. Started fishing as a kid. Probably the oldest fishing memories I got are with my grandfather up around, the Ocala National Forest. Spent a lot of time on Lake George, and
What would y'all catch up there?
when we fished Lake George and the St. Johns River, there's no telling what we'd catch. A lot of largemouth bass, striped bass up there. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
There's a
somebody
bunch of
else
those
told
up
me
there.
about catching striped bass.
There's
in
a bunch of
Florida.
striped bass up there.
Hadn't done much of that at all. Big ones, or how big do they get?
Yeah, I mean schoolies, 20 inchers, 7, 8
okay.
pounds is going to be a big one.
None of
up there.
those 30, 40 pounders you see kind of
No,
up in.
I've never seen any that big that far up in
But
there.
still being able to catch them, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you've eaten plenty of them. Y'all didn't
Oh,
throw
yeah.
too many back, did you?
Not unless they made us.
Yeah, at the boat ramp right
Yeah.
as they check you.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of keeping them alive. Looks better on the arrest report
Yeah.
that they returned them back.
I mean, I could probably get away with it now because the statute of limitations has ran out.
Sure, let's hear it. That's why we
But
call it Tales
there's
from the Dark Side.
there's a run up there, a spring fed run up there, and it's a state park. Well, my grandfather used to rent a houseboat up there every year. He did for years from Pontoon Landing, and we'd go over there and stay, not in the state park, but in Silver Glen.
On the easement.
Yeah, and me and my cousins, older cousins, and a couple younger cousins would take a boat that we'd have tied up to the houseboat, and we'd paddle up in, past the buoys.
And what, they
and
didn't
right,
let you?
right there in the fishing hole. No, at night we would go in there.
No,
And,
but I'm saying that was an off limits.
well, it was closed at night.
Oh,
It was closed at night, but it was accessible. They had the gates closed from the road and stuff, but it was
Oh, I
accessible
gotcha.
from where we were at.
yeah,
So,
not supposed to be in there.
but trust me, we threw every one of those fish back.
Yeah, I'm
we
sure.
just caught those.
And was it a good fish in there, or
But yeah, I mean,
in that creek?
it was actually in the swimming hole.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
Yeah, you could go up there, and I mean, every cast at nighttime.
Is that kind of like the mangroves down in the Keys at the marinas, where they're all in the marinas? You know why they're in there, right? They're poop eating mangroves.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were in there doing, and y'all didn't keep none of them though. So,
No, so we didn't keep them, so it didn't matter anyways.
so let's hear some other dark side stuff. What you got over there? Past statute of limitation.
Depends on what you're looking for, man.
Just fishing, just some tails, maybe some
I don't know.
catching.
Or maybe some that are
Not good to
probably
talk about.
not good for the podcast.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be good, huh?
Yeah.
I know. I fished with you now. How long have we known each other? 6, 7
Yeah,
years.
6, 7 years.
Been
We did-
fishing down at Anna Maria, and then kind of Matt seems to get you on the boat every time we go somewhere, and
Yeah.
it's worked out good.
Yeah, he's good to me like that, man. And it's through the years of fishing with you. We used to go out and just me and him and on a 20-something foot boat and thought we knew how to catch grouper. We did a pretty good job, but fishing with you through the years, I've learned a lot, met a lot of good people.
Yeah, man, some really good fishermen.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, I'm far from the best, but I fish with the best, and I think you've seen that being on the boat, the Tommy Laranges and James Peters and Bone and all the guys, Mark Feewoks, and
Yeah.
it's
At
been
any given time, you can learn something around all you guys fishing, man.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge.
What's
out there.
what's the highlight of all those trips since you've been going out and we've been hammering offshore?
I mean, we've done so much, it's hard to pick out one, but as of recently, and maybe because it's so fresh, being on that, Dylan Hubbard's boat when that 94-pound wahoo was caught. That
Yeah.
I mean, that was something. And going back to the amount of knowledge and experience of some of the guys that you fish with and we fished with for the last 5 or 6 years, that fish never gets caught without all that knowledge
Oh
on
yeah.
that boat.
I mean, that was
You
that was
hook
a
that
tough
fish
one.
100 times, you catch it once. You
Right.
know, did the job, man.
Yeah,
It
that
was pretty cool to see.
I was just happy to be there, and somebody had asked me when I was talking about it, a friend of mine or somebody in here, and they said, "Who actually caught that fish?" And I said, if you had to give credit, there was about 4 people I saw. Jason from High Standards, he definitely had the rod most of the time.
Yeah.
But the time it got wrapped around the anchor line, if you didn't have the spider monkeys like Tommy Larange bouncing around off the boat.
Tommy walked that thing back and forth around those motors
At
probably
least,
4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I remember that. He was, we caught him on 20-pound test. It was a 94-pound wahoo, so you can't really horse him. I mean, 20-pound test, and your drag's probably set at 10 or 12-pound test. Having to get that thing in and a small piece of wire, you definitely didn't want pressure. And that was definitely one of the fun trips and the memories. Of course, all of them are fun. Being around you guys, you got to stay on guard because y'all are always full of tricks.
Yeah.
You and your buddy Matt Clapp, always box full of tricks.
Yeah. I think he sits at home at night and actually pre-planned stuff.
Yeah.
There's no way you can come up with that much stuff.
I mean,
ad-libbing.
We went to Louisiana this year, and you got to fly with him. I was fortunate enough to be able to drive in, and I didn't really have to spend that close time with him on an airplane because he can get a little bit out of hand. He was dressed like Trailer Park Boys, the guy Ricky.
Yeah, he was in full Ricky costume when he got there.
He had bought a pair of rip-off pants and Adidas shoes. What did you think when you first saw him?
I
Did you
don't
know
when he came out with that wig on, man? I about lost it. That's a good segment. Has that aired yet?
No, that'll be probably within
man.
a few months. Aaron was with us in Louisiana. We just recently filmed 2 shows, an inshore and offshore, and we did a cooking segment. And I mean, really, I can't even imagine the way that show's going to come out because Matt was in rare form. He had a wig on. He's dressed like Ricky, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had the tennis shoes. He had the gold chain, the old dragon shirt, and everything.
Big gold watch.
He invested some time in thinking that thing up.
And time
Lord,
and money.
Lord knows how many Amazon packages showed up.
Yeah,
just for
I
one
can't
Ricky
imagine.
costume.
And it worked. It was a good. He rode all the way in the plane with y'all, and then in the rental car, he had his sideburns cut like what do they call them, chops, just like Ricky does, and he was quite the character, I would say.
Yeah, Matt's a good guy, man.
Fun time.
Keep you laughing.
That's one thing about it. We have some fun on there.
Always.
You went on a couple trips with us when we ran out there deep and caught those wahoo also, didn't you?
Yeah, I think last year we went out and we caught 2 or 3 in one day. Jessica was with us, Mark's
Mark's
wife that time.
Let the one
and
go,
Casey,
right?
Casey was with us. Yeah, she let one go.
Yeah, she didn't do her job.
And she was
was
reprimanded.
Yes. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
What happened there? Why don't you tell everybody what happened? I kind of forget.
I forgot what it was you told her she did.
Well, I kind of remember now, so maybe I will.
Was she not cranking, or what was she doing?
Well, what happened was Mark, once in a while, the wife wants to come on the fishing trip, and there was plenty of room. And one thing about her, she's a trooper. She's not going to whine and say, when are we coming in? And, like you typically get, rather be sitting at a sandbar than 100 miles offshore. Well, Jess, she's down for that. Let's go 100 miles. We left at 4 in the morning, didn't we? She was right there. So we had one hit, blistering, first hit of the day. She runs over, now I don't know, I guess because Mark was the captain, she was first in line, but none of us were notified of this. And she probably took about 10 cranks on the 50 wide, and all of a sudden I looked over and she's got both hands on the handle, and I'm instantly thinking to myself, this isn't good. This is the beginning of losing a fish. And then what happened? If you've ever been around a wahoo, they shake their head way more than a trout would. So I'm looking out, I'm watching whitewater, and I see the plug go and the rod do that. And she's winding in, and then what happened? You remember? Mark, it's
No,
okay,
I don't.
baby.
Oh yeah, he did.
It's
comfort.
okay, baby.
Yeah.
Everybody loses.
But
fish.
you took that away instantly.
Well,
because you-
I let him finish, and as I was biting my tongue and I was pacing because I was like, no, this can't be. I know I'm not hearing this. Mark's a fisherman. He needs to tell her the truth. And I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings because, you know, I'm a little sensitive myself. So I'm not out to look to hurt somebody, but I felt like I needed to tell her the truth or she'd never catch a wahoo. Am I right?
It's true.
And I just simply told her, Mark's lying to you. You screwed up. That's exactly what I said to her. Jess, sorry.
Sure did.
I think it made you a better fisherman. If you hate me for it, I still did you right. Because Mark was over there going, oh, baby, everybody loses a fish. That's why they call it fishing and not catching and all the BS that you hear, excuses of why you don't catch something. So I simply told her, listen, wahoo has the most aggressive head shake. If you can't reel constantly, then don't grab the rod.
Yeah, the handle's got to be turning the whole time.
And then,
We're
of
gonna
course, I really got to stick the dagger in and twist it because then I go right to, listen, if you want a picture of the fish, we'll let you get in the picture and take the picture. But if you can't catch the fish, stay away from the rod.
I think she refused when we caught the next two that we hooked. I don't believe she ever took a picture because you told her that.
No, we took a picture of her and Mark. I did. I think she might have even been part of catching one of those next
She
two.
did.
I think she did
She
catch
did.
one. But,
She
and she
redeemed-
did good.
She redeemed herself.
See, I told her the truth instead of Mark's little, hey, baby. I couldn't believe that even came out. I'm standing there thinking she screwed up, and Mark's going, hey, that happens to everybody. What good? That's everybody gets a trophy, Mark Feewoks. I hope you learned something from that because he's as hard as I am. And, you know,
Yeah, he is.
I'd tell my wife the same thing, and it's not to run anybody down. It's to make you understand why. Because if you make a mistake, if I try to teach you something and you've seen it from hunting to fishing, they tell you don't jerk that plug out of that fish's mouth when he comes up behind it. But it's a natural reaction. You think the fish just hit your line, but he's not there yet. You pull it away from him. Boom, he's gone. Well, until you experience that, you're not going to understand that that's not what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? It's the same way with a deer. If you're sitting there and a deer comes out and instantly well, that's when he's looking. He's most alert when he first steps out. So if you start moving, you know, and that's where you learn after you spook one. You sit there and you don't do nothing. And then when he lets his guard down, that's when you get the gun up and put it out the window of the truck. Right? Turn the motor off because it shakes a little bit when you're shooting from the mirror. And I had to learn that. You can't hold the rifle still on the mirror. Remember, this is just entertainment. This is me and Aaron. We're having a good time.
Yeah.
But she redeemed herself. We caught 2 wahoo. We had 1 more on. We caught tuna and sails that day too,
yeah.
I believe, right?
Yeah, I think we caught 5 or 6 blackfin.
And a good time, man, with Mark. You know, there's hundreds of fishing captains out there, but there's, you know, if you've ever been around a bunch of them, you'll see the difference. And Mark is one of those guys that likes to fish.
Yeah, I fish with a bunch of guys that have been doing it for a living for many years, and you go out there and you can just tell the thrill is gone.
Yeah.
You'll never get that out of Mark.
You know, Mark.
You know, catch him at the end of even snapper season when he's been running hard every day for forever.
Right.
He's still
He's
wants
got
to
that
be out there fishing, and he wants to be catching fish
with his friends.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen him go 10, 12 days in a row. I've seen a 12 and 14-hour trip, and he's like, no, we can go that next day. It's no problem at all. I got fuel in my truck. I can transport it over. You know, he enjoys going, and an excellent fisherman. He's been on the gags and red snapper lately, too.
Yeah,
out
I saw
there.
that.
And got another wahoo, Captain Jim Fogel. Congrats. Guy who calls in our radio show for the Coast Guard Auxiliary safe boating tip. He got a nice wahoo, 50 pounds. But, most people won't go out there and do that trolling like that. We'll spend all day. You've been out there all day. Matter of fact, you were on the boat and we looked 14 hours at a rod tip waiting for a swordfish and never got a hit.
Yes, sir.
But you got to have those days to get the good days, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you've been blessed to do enough of it, not to take anything from the grouper fishing or the fishery or anything of that sort, because that's fun. It's a staple of West Coast fishing here.
Right.
But the quality, the payoff when you go out there and you put that kind of time in and it pays off. You get that good fish, that 94-pound wahoo.
Right.
It makes it all worth it. You'll forget about all the time you thought may have looked at as wasted before that.
Yeah. How do you juggle? I know you're a dad, a father. Your daughter's really into softball.
Yes, sir.
And how do you juggle the hunting and fishing around that, just to help other people out? Because sometimes I've seen them come in here and all of a sudden disappear and act. I don't see them for 10 years. And they said, oh, my kids was in baseball.
Yeah, I don't know. You want to give your kids everything. You want to be involved with every part of that. But you still got to remember where you came from. You know what I mean? I don't get to fish and hunt as much as I used to, or maybe even want to.
Right.
But I guess I'm blessed with friends like you and opportunities to hunt and fish.
Right.
So the quality's there. So I don't ever feel like I'm not getting enough, because when I do, it's good stuff.
It's like we were in Louisiana and we fished 10 of 11 days.
Yeah, which is killer.
And how many days did you fish?
6
in a row.
Yep.
I mean, you kind of come home and don't really think about fishing for a week or so, huh? I mean,
true.
You talk about it, right? You want the time and tell everybody, look at these fish.
Oh, yeah.
Show them on your phone, but
oh yeah, but I don't feel like I have to be back out there the next week.
yeah, like
sure,
you do here,
yeah.
Where we fish one day and then we want to go next week again. We think of that one day. It's really nice to be able to do that. I know as my kids were growing up, they played softball and baseball, and I was a big part of that. I was a coach, but there is times that you don't need to be there, I mean, I think I went to almost every game and every practice, but I also do a lot of fishing and hunting during the week. When I got to go to Louisiana or out of town, a lot of times you're going to use up a weekend, which are those times where they're having games, and that's really the important time. And it's really important for parents to be there just to make sure that everything's good. You know what I mean? Because you're relying on, even in high school, I went to almost every practice of my sons in high school, I could tell you, and I wanted to. It wasn't that I was there to play daddy ball. I wanted to see that because I knew it would be gone.
You only get to do it one time.
That's right.
Or.
And I don't regret any of it. I told a friend of mine one time, there ain't a blue marlin big enough that takes the rewards more than watching one of your kids perform in baseball, do good, and the first thing they do is look for you.
That's true.
My son's first home run, my daughter's first base hit, first catch in the outfield or riding a bike. None of that stuff compares. But if you can, I love to fish. My business is fishing. I'm blessed with what I do, and I enjoy helping people out and helping them get there. And especially like when I first met you. The first time I met you, you were all dressed in what do we got going on here, Steven? I hear whoa. Is it my phone? No, that can't be my phone. That's Hardiman. We ain't talking to Jeff Hardiman.
Not yet.
No. But we got another segment coming up. Sorry about that. My buddy Jeff, you see him on TV too. He's kind of a weirdo. He's up in Idaho right now. But I apologize, Jeff. I have to get back with you some other time. I'm here with Aaron right now. So we got a break coming up. Aaron Croft, Total Plumbing. One of our sponsors here, Matt Clapp, Aaron Croft, great guys. You'll see them this year. Coming up the next month, he'll be on some of those we call a big wahoo. We got a lot more to talk about, and we'll be right back. We're back, part 2 with Aaron Croft, Total Plumbing, Tales from the Darkside, T.A. Mahoney. Great to be affiliated with you guys. You've done, everybody needs a good plumber, and let me tell you something, they're good people over there. It's who I use for my business, my house, my parents' house, my sisters, cousins, anybody that needs a plumber, these guys are the ones to get for sure. And I've enjoyed fishing. We were talking about some of the highlights of where we fished, and I asked you about, your favorite trip, which would be the 94-pound wahoo. It's kind of hard not to like that trip. But what was your least favorite trip?
I don't know. The day Tangles told us that story that we can't repeat right now.
The one when he was in jail?
Yeah.
Yeah. Watching another man shower.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little awkward.
That was a little awkward.
Bless his heart.
You've met some characters, I bet, too, because Tangles goes way back. We had done about 25 podcasts, and I'd asked the guys who handle all this, Cam, who got the most views so far, and do you believe Tangles hit it out of the park? I believe it.
I've talked to people away from here. People know who Tangles is, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, he lets you know who they are. I mean, he can go anywhere and he's talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Best friends with them.
That was probably my least favorite trip. I don't think we caught many fish that day. It was dead still. It was right after a full moon. We were bottom fishing,
And you probably learned some creative stuff too, hadn't you? Like tying people up. And you ever had bait in your pockets?
Oh, man.
Tell us about some of the shenanigans you've had to deal with.
Oh, man. Bait in the pockets. One time I walked into a 7-Eleven after we trailered the boat and we were going back, and I went to reach in my pocket to grab a little bit of cash. I think I was buying a soda or something, and there was about 4 or 5 mushed up sardine heads in there, and it was soup. One time, back when that stuff first started, when Matt first started doing that stuff,
he was bad. He's
terrible.
Yeah,
he's terrible.
Bad.
No.
And
there's no boundaries.
Let's set the record straight. If one guy pulls more of that crap than anybody, it's going to be Matt. Am I right?
1,000%.
If Matt's not on the boat, we don't deal with nearly as much.
Yeah, but he does it the most, but the worst that I've seen was actually done to him in retaliation for some of the fish in the pockets. We took one of our guys with us one time, Tommy. And Tommy, a couple trips before that, he'd gone with us a few times.
So he was seasoned.
So he was hip to Matt putting the stuff in his pockets, or wherever else he's going to put it in your wherever. There's no boundaries. But Tommy took a whole squid and put it. Matt had this tackle box. It was wasn't a hard tackle box. It was like a soft side box. Well, when we took it off, he took a whole squid and put it in that tackle box. Well, when me and Matt got the boat home, we cleaned the boat. We pulled the tackle box off. We sprayed it off with water. It went back in the garage, and it was rod room.
Fermented.
A week later, there were flies. It was terrible. When we finally figured out what the source was, we opened that bag, and it was like a jelly.
Oh,
death jelly, exactly. That's the perfect description of it. It was terrible.
I'd almost call it pickled.
Take the paint off the walls. It was bad.
Yeah, but you found it.
It was a little bit.
So was there any retaliation from that?
No. Well, I'm sure.
Matt figured it was over then?
Yeah. Maybe he thought he bit off more than he could chew. Tommy hasn't been fishing with us too many more times since then, but I'm sure when he goes again, Matt's going to remember.
I think Matt's
going to remember that.
He's putting together a little deep drop trip with Mark Fewalk's here coming up next month.
I think the 28th or 29th, something like that.
Y'all been out there in some bad. Were you on that trip when they got in that foul
No,
water?
I opted out of that one because I had a softball tournament I had to go to.
Boy, that saved you. And I was out of that one too. And I think our buddy Steve Cross was out of that one. But
A couple boats went down that night.
yeah, it was bad. I remember Steve Cross had called me and said, "Hey, how do you think our guys are doing?" It was about 6 or 7. They were planning on leaving, I think, about 4. So I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Man, there's big storms out there." And I go, man, there ain't nothing to worry about. I looked at them. There's a line of afternoon showers, and once they get through that, they should be fine. Well, then when I got off the phone with him, I went on to the weather and saw what it was, and I instantly called him back and said, if they went where they said they're going, they're in the middle of a big one. Because it just kind of all gathered together, and anybody that's fished over here on the West Coast knows those little popcorns you see on the radar definitely can blow up and come together. We've saw it in Venice this year.
Yeah, we about got circled in that last day.
It about ran us through, and one of the things I noticed, did you look at that radar he had there at any time? The serious weather kind of, and I don't know that if he knows exactly how to hook it up. It is telling the truth, but it'll show a lot more rain than what's actually there. And I think what it's showing more is moisture. What saved us was the radar, the one on top going around, because that's the one that's real time and really tells you. You got to know how to use it and what to look for. But it showed us those gaps that we shot through, and that's something we have to deal with here in the Gulf of Mexico in the summer, all those little storms that pop up. And that morning you're talking about in Venice, we ran out, there was a bunch of little popcorns. We caught 12 red snapper in less than an hour, and within that time all those storms had blown up.
Yeah,
so
we ended up coming in a pass 15 miles from where we came out.
Yeah,
so
on that one,
it's nice to have that luxury up there. If you do that on this coast, you come in another pass, you might be 30 miles from where you're trying to go.
Well, and I think that's what they did that day. Mark went out and they went on that night trip as they ran out there, and they had to run towards Crystal River to get around that storm and come in. And they were way up by Clearwater, but started out way to the south out of Pass-a-Grille.
Yeah.
So, them storms can get you. And I'm thankful I wasn't on that boat either.
Me too.
You ever get tied up on the boat? What's some of the things you got to deal with
tied up?
The characters.
Well, one time there was a guy that had a popcorn party.
Yeah, what happened there?
Yeah, I don't know, but
it was Matt, wasn't it?
No, it was you.
Oh, it was me? I forget what happened. I just
sure are quick to place the blame on Matt. Matt's your scapegoat today. Blame it on the guy that's not here, right?
Yeah, and get his best friend and business partner over here telling on him. We'll make Matt look bad.
I don't think Mark, what do you call him, making a mess, Mark?
Yeah.
He wasn't even happy about all the popcorn on the boat.
Well,
he said he was cleaning out of his bilge pump for 2 months.
Well, I'll give him another bilge pump.
Yes.
But you know what? He's made a mess on my boat. I don't feel bad. You know what I mean? I've seen him rip stuff open and throw it on the ground, bait on the ground, step on, baits. I've seen it all, and him just not care. That's where he got the name, Making a Mess Mark. And boy, on his boat, he don't want to make a mess, though. He'll throw them fish down in the corner of my boat. I've butterflied them before and dropped them back down. One he wanted to eat, and I said, no, I'm going to use him for bait. You must not want to eat him. You ain't put him in the cooler yet.
Yeah,
He's afraid to give that spot up, So what kind of things in Louisiana did you have to deal with?
I guess we're going to go there, right?
The question I got to ask you is when you get asked to go somewhere, like, hey, we're doing this, hey, we're doing that, what goes through your head? Is it what you're going to have to deal with, or the actual venture that we're going on? What do you actually look at?
I mean, you start out thinking, about the venture that you're going to go on, but the closer it gets, you start to realize that you got, there's some other things you got to be ready for.
You got to be awake.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
you can't fall asleep around our crew.
No.
You
might as well stay awake.
I mean, ask Cameron. Cameron woke up tied in 3 different spots and couldn't move. Remember?
Yeah, doing the stabbing motion. Spencer, untie
He
me.
sure did.
That's all I heard. Spencer, untie me now. You should have heard it. I wish we could have got that on video. We've had some good times, I can tell you that, Aaron, and I hope to have a bunch more. You really hadn't fished with us out of the Chaz, have you?
No, I ain't had a chance to get up there with you guys. It hasn't worked out, but I will. Talking to Jeff last time we were hanging out, he wants me to come up there. So
Yeah, man, it's a really cool place. Chazla Jeff Hardiman. Been talking to him. He's up in Idaho right now, and hopefully when he gets back, October, right before hunting season starts, we'll.
That's a good time to be up there.
Yeah, the good fishing up there. It's kind of cooled off some.
Yeah.
Cool nights and off the grid. No supervision. It really gets nutty out there. I can't wait for you to come. And you can't go nowhere.
I bet.
Yeah.
So when you guys fish up there, do you always fish with Alfred or?
Yeah, Alfred and his crew. Eagle Beak's another one up there we fish with. It's kind of his partner. They run together. If we need two boats, either one I'll go with. I kind of like fishing with Alfred. He was the first one I met. And,
Yeah.
But I can tell you, Mike, he's a good one too. All, good people up there. We've met the right people going through Hardiman. And they seem to put us on fish, even some of the worst days. And that's the whole thing about, we were talking about the quality of captains that we got to choose from out there. You really want to see how somebody's going to catch fish, hire them on the worst day of the year. Front coming in, fog. I've done it with Brett Norris. I've done it with Alfred, and both of them were great shows, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
up there
had
at
a
the
good
Chaz
time.
too. You can't. The Chaz is a place, because I've been up there before for different reasons, just never with Jeff and you guys.
Right.
You got to be with somebody that knows those waters. It's unless you want to tear something up.
They got that marine tracks out now. It's a chip, and they've gone everywhere, inland, offshore, north and south, all over the state. And they say that they got some ways to go in and out of there that some of the local people don't even know. And that's not just there. That's everywhere along this coast,
Right.
It starts getting hard and shallow when you get Clearwater north. I always find it funny that people come in here and they'll have something going on with their boat and they'll want me to walk out there and look at it. And they'll tell me that their boat runs in 6 inches of water. And I'll be like, well, you got 8 inches of paint off the skeg. So running in Tampa Bay in 6 inches of water doesn't mean you ain't hitting bottom.
Right.
We got muddy bottom.
Muddy bottom.
You know what I mean? It's
Soft.
like, I think the Alafai River at any given time you could walk across if it was hard bottom. But it's mud, so you'd sink, you know what I mean? At
Right.
times, I know definitely during a low tide you could walk across that, that whole river. So
You're gonna find no muddy bottom up there at the Chaz.
no, that's rock hard, and that really, it's amazing. Like they run boats all day with the jack plate, with the cavitation plate 3 inches above the water.
Yeah.
You're looking at just the top of the prop the way they run, and a great fishery up there. What's nice up there is I think their season on stuff is a little bit different. Like when we can't keep trout and redfish here, we can go up there and keep trout and redfish. I'm not sure if it ever even closes up there, but of course they did change some rules. I think one fish over 20 inches per boat. So it's a little bit, it's kind of like it is here.
I don't think it affected them as much up there with the red tide closure that we went through the last couple
Right.
of years either.
Well, and they, the red tide, I had somebody call in the radio show the other day asking about red tide. Well, we really hadn't had a chemical spill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's really the bottom line. I think they caught a lot of that last year. It's been almost a year, I think, almost to the day of when we had that big spill over there south on 41, Piney Point. And it seems like the bay's recovered well, for
Yeah.
sure. I fished out here a few times. Do you still fish the bay some?
Yeah, as often as I can get out there, man. I feel like it's recovered, from my experience out there. It's the fishery's just as strong as it was before. There was definitely a time though when you could see the effects of it.
Oh, yeah.
But
throughout that time period before it flushed out, and who knows where it went or when it's going to show up again. A question I got for you, being that when you go on the boat with us and we go on these trips doing different stuff, lots of shenanigans going on. Does that carry over into work? I'm just.
It can.
Yeah, y'all still.
It can. Sometimes we got to be reminded that we got to get back to task and focus. But
Yeah.
as long as the work's getting done, the customers are happy, everybody's satisfied. You should be able to. There should be a little shenanigans at work to keep everybody on their toes and have a little bit of fun. There's nothing wrong with that, Mike.
And everybody can take it pretty good.
Yeah, for the most part. I'm sure there's some shenanigans going on around here too.
Oh boy, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
But it's funny. We play them all the time. Some of the ones we do here, it's you'll have somebody call in wanting to talk to the owner. Just a blank sales calls the owner there.
Yeah, we get those all the time.
Well, that's going straight to my cousin. I go, oh yeah, he's the owner. That's him, and he is, and we all are. But the fact of the matter is, we pawn them off on him. So he's over there on the phone. The guy's wanting to teach how to invest, and some of the funniest things I remember my dad being here, and some guy calling up telling my dad if he invests with him how much money he was going to make. And I'm sure you've taken calls like that. My dad would always say to him, well, I tell you what, and I'd hear him saying this, you send me a copy of your bank account, and if you got more money than I do, I'll invest with you. But if you ain't got no money, why are you trying to make me money if you don't have none? And they just
that's yours.
Yeah, they wouldn't know what to say. And that's some of the nice things about being in a small family business. I work the floor, I work in the office, I work wherever I need to, and you're in touch with everybody. One of the things years ago we were thinking about doing was growing a little bit and putting multiple stores out, because we feel like we really got a good thing with the service and the knowledge we have. And one of the things I learned, that if I did that, I wouldn't be here much. I'd be going around and just making sure things are right. And I walked out of the meeting at that point. I said, you know what? I don't need that. The minute I step out of this showroom and go somewhere else, and I let somebody else other than family or somebody who's been here a long time try to run that, I'm going to lose my customer base. And that's one thing I promise the people. This place is built here, T.A. Mahoney Company. Come by and see us. I don't have an office. My office is on the floor. You want to talk about anything? There is no stupid question. And I know you guys, the reason why I deal with y'all, and we're sponsored, we're together, we work together every way we can. You're the same way.
We try to be extremely customer oriented. Learned through the years, there's a lot of companies out there, and I won't bring up any names or badmouth anybody, but they want a customer one time and it's a home run, and they're not concerned whether that customer ever uses them again, as long as they hit that home run on that first job. Our philosophy is the total opposite of that. We want to perform a service for a fair price, and make sure that every customer that we ever get never calls another plumber in their entire life.
Treat them right. You're looking for long term. It's the same thing we do here at T.A. Mahoney. That's what's attracted me to Total Plumbing. I've had some great times. Aaron, what's your phone number over there? You got a website, totalplumbing.com?
Totalplumbing.com, and our phone number is 813-935-2733. We're open 24 hours a day. The office isn't open always, but there's always at least one tech on call that'll answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Great guys over there. They've replumbed my house. Anybody living in this area knows there's a lot of houses from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Mine was built in the 80s. I was having problems with copper pipes. They took care of me. They knocked it out quick. I was down very little time. I definitely recommend Total Plumbing. So go to totalplumbing.com. Cam, the same guy that's in charge, Lateral Media, that takes care of everything we do, also does the website over there for them. Check it out. It's an awesome website. Thanks for coming out today, Aaron. I've had a great time, and hope to be fishing soon.
Absolutely, Mike. I appreciate you having me. I enjoyed it.